Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? At the back? Perfect. So good afternoon and a very warm welcome to our Summer Tenant Conference for 2024. For those that don't know me, I'm Elaine Ritchie. I'm the Strategic Lead for Housing and Communities with lead responsibility for the Housing Service. I'm particularly pleased to be hosting this event at a new venue for us, and we're delighted to be supporting the excellent work of the YMCA through our attendance here today. It's a brand new facility for YMCA, so if you've got any time after the event, I'd encourage you to find out what they do. It's lovely to see you all here today and some new faces, which is really positive. And I look forward to some exciting discussions and ideas coming forward to help us all work effectively together in partnership as we progress with what is undoubtedly one of the most important activities impacting on every single one of our tenants. As a service which tries its hardest to deliver services to meet the needs of tenants and shape service based on feedback received, we're keen to hear from you about what you feel the barriers are that preventing some tenants from attending events like this in localities. As despite a range of different options being provided, such as hosting these events in all areas in Perth and Kinross, attendance is relatively low. We have over 8,000 council properties in Perth and Kinross, and today is our tenants conference to decide your rent. And if you look around the room, it doesn't represent the number of properties that we have. To that end, you'll find a short survey questionnaire on the tables in front of you, and I'd be grateful if you could complete this during this afternoon. In addition to this, and making sure we're keeping you busy, we would also like to, hiding behind the screen here, I would like to hear about future presentations on any areas of interest, discussions that you would like to see at any future events. So again, if you could pop down your ideas down on the same questionnaire, that would be really helpful. Your summer conference marks the second phase of our consultation and engagement around your rent setting priorities and the future rent levels for 2025-26 in Perth and Kinross. Hopefully most of you here today will have completed the first survey, which we call phase 1. That was sent out with the recent On the House magazine, and is also available online. This year we changed our approach and we set up a dedicated team of officers to focus specifically on contacting tenants over the phone to ensure that we contacted as many tenants as possible to get your feedback. As a result of this, we had over 1,300 surveys completed and returned, which is a huge success, which is a 112% increase compared to last year. We have a real problem getting the feedback from our tenants despite staff trying our hardest. And some people do say that's a positive. If people don't have feedback to provide, well, you must be providing the services that meet their needs. But sometimes I'm not too sure that's the case. The feedback provided from the surveys allows us as a housing management team to consider what the potential rent level options will be going forward, which need to reflect your priorities and also the pressures the services are facing. We're only too aware of the continued financial pressures being faced by you as a tenant and also as us as a service, and we need to ensure we get the balance right that reflects your priorities, we can deliver, and more importantly is affordable. That's the most important thing to us. Today you'll see a video outlining the survey results detailing what you have told us about what your key priorities are. At the end of the video we will move to a question and answer session with the management team at the top table. The team here today includes, and I'll just move along, Service Manager June McCall for repairs and improvements, Michelle Down, Service Manager for Localities team and Income Max, and online is Stephen Coyle, who is our finance team leader, who keeps it right when things come to finance. Prior to the video, Michelle's going to go through a very short presentation around our performance as a landlord. This information makes up some of our annual return, which we're required to submit to the organisation which govern us as an organisation, and they're called the Scottish Housing Regulator. And as I said, they regulate housing services in Scotland, and to demonstrate we need to submit this information to ensure that we're meeting all what we're required to meet as a landlord. And it also highlights areas where we're doing well, but also highlights areas where we're not performing, where we need to improve upon. That's enough from me, you'll be glad to hear. So I hope you enjoyed today, and please take this opportunity to have your voice heard. And I now thank you very much, and I'll hand you over to Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. If everyone's okay, I'll just stay seated so that I can actually see my presentation on the screen and I'm not having to kind of act like an owl. Yes, it was meant to be a short presentation. It's turned into something slightly longer, so excuse me if you do feel we go through it quite quickly. But what we'll make sure is that the presentation is available online for anyone to view at their leisure, and also if online is not for you, if you speak to a member of our staff, Emma's staff or Sunny sitting at the front here, we can take your details and we can send it out to you. So, as Elaine said, before we move on to the main business of today, I wanted to give you a very high-level performance overview based on our annual return on the Charter, or the ARC. That was submitted to the Scottish Housing Regulator on the 31st of May this year. This presentation, believe it or not, does not detail every aspect of performance, nor indeed all the improvement actions which staff will be taking forward in partnership with tenants over the year ahead, and that work has already started. You will all, of course, receive a copy of the annual landlord report with your future edition of On the House, and we'll provide an overview of the areas of responsibility. And I'm sure, if I'd been given an hour, I could have filled the full hour. So if we can move on, Scott, to the next slide. So hopefully you are seeing the same slide as me, which is around our stock levels. It's just a very high level overview. Is it shown up on the screen? Yeah. Okay. So it gives you a breakdown of the stock in Perth and Kinross, and you can see there we've moved to just over 8,000 properties, with 8,053, and our average rental across all our stock is £79.74. Thanks, Scott. So in terms of, and I'm not seeing my full screen here, so apologies. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay. Thanks. So what you're seeing there is the high-level performance summary, and what we're showing you is how we have performed in this year's ARC return compared to the previous year. And that highlights some areas of improved performance, other areas which have remained relatively static, and some areas which have dipped. So in terms of properties meeting the SHQS, the good news story there, we've had an increase from 69.03% to 76.32%. And we work hard in relation to the exemptions, which we'll touch on later on. Our void rent loss, so that is money that we are basically not collecting because properties are sitting empty waiting repair. That's gone down from 1.04% to 0.8%, and that obviously means an increase in the income we are bringing in to pay for the services that we're delivering. Our void relet times have gone down to 37.8 days. That might seem still a significant period, but we performed significantly well compared to the national average. And June and the teams faced significant challenges like other local authorities in terms of capacity and backlog of repairs. Our void turnover, that's the percentage of properties from our overall stock. So from the 8,053 properties last year, we got 7.67% turnover. Again, another good news story despite the significant financial challenges facing our tenants, and again impacting on the amount of income we're bringing in to pay for services. This saw the percentage of rent collected increase to 99.15%. In addition, as you would expect, with an increase in the rent being collected, we saw a reduction in our rent arrears. In terms of stage 1 complaints, so that's complaints that are dealt with by your locality housing teams, responded in full was 97.92%. Stage 2, that's where a tenant is not satisfied with the response that's been provided from the locality coordinator or team leader, and that's allocated to our corporate complaints team who've recently had a restructure. So there's been a slight decrease in performance, but as a result of that, there has been a restructure and additional capacity put in to support that. And in terms of our leash compliance, that remains relatively static, but still an improvement of up to 81.9%. So our average length of time to complete emergency repairs in hours, you can see there we have given you the sort of last 3 years' performance, and you can see, a significant amount of work put in by our trades team and our repairs centre in scheduling repairs. And we've gone down to 3.3 hours, and that compares to a national average of 4.17. In terms of non-emergency repairs, we have seen an increase from 7.59 to 8.65, but that is as a direct result of the backlog of repairs that we're still experiencing. So you will recollect, some of you, that during the COVID period we had to restrict it to emergency repairs, and there's been a significant backlog, and like all local authorities, we're struggling capacity-wise in terms of being able to recruit trade staff. In terms of our comms performance, so some bullet point figures for you there. You can see increases in all of that in terms of our email contacts, Facebook pages, number of tenants accessing texts, and an increased number in the followers on Twitter as well. And these are all important, but so are events like this for people who prefer to have that meeting face to face. Tenancy sustainment, we had a slight reduction, so this is the number of tenancies created in the last 12 months that have been sustained for a year or more. So we saw a slight reduction in performance by 1.17%, but still up in the 90%. Specifically around previously homeless tenants, we had a slight reduction there in terms of sustainment by 1.52%, but we're working in terms of our pre-tenancy set-up work, and we've set up a working group that are looking at how we can better support tenants to sustain their tenancies. Our tenant satisfaction results, again in 2023-24, that went down. It went up to 73.1% against the national average of 85. So still some work to be done there, and that's why we're asking you, what is it about the range of opportunities that we offer to participate that maybe aren't ticking the boat or enticing people to come in? I'm not going to go through all these because I'm conscious of time, but some of the priorities for the year ahead are obviously, as Elaine alluded to in our introduction, continue to set rents at reasonable and affordable levels whilst delivering high levels of service, financing the cost of the future investment programme, increasing stock, continue to and promote and increase our social media, capture tenant communication preferences, and again, I think you've got a sheet on your table to complete around that. Deliver a menu of opportunities as part of the introduction of our new 2024-27 TRP strategy, and ensure transparency around why we're collecting information. Focus on addressing failures in properties where the SHQS isn't made, so I gave the performance information around that at the start, so that's an obvious area. Other things, as you imagine, you can see there is about EPC certificates, our stock conditions survey, looking at progressing the delivery stage of the first blocks in the multi-storey strategy, and address abatements. We were continuing to hold weekly voids meetings at a management and a locality housing team level and trades level to identify fast-track voids. We want people in their properties as soon as we can, both from their perspective and an income perspective from the council. And so we're continuing to coordinate and ensure that the allocations team are updated. We'll continue to closely monitor voids weekly at the housing management team, and we've got a robust action plan in place, and obviously the priority we have for that is an overall reduction in the number of void days. In terms of some of the safer communities work, we're wanting to work in partnership around space, CCTV, and to develop capability to support that. Working with the Business Safety Partnership to develop initiatives to tackle community safety issues, particularly in Perth City. And we will be working up with others in trading standards and public protection to establish a sustainable response to fraudsters. So that's your scams, that is a real major issue, and that is something that we're planning to do a presentation on, hopefully at the autumn conference, in terms of the work the Council's doing. So what are the next steps? So the Scottish Housing Regulator will publish the landlord reports on the 31st of August for all the social housing providers in Scotland. That's when we'll be able to see how others have performed, because we like to see where we sit in relation to that, and it will also provide the national average. We are then required to produce an annual assurance statement, and that will be submitted to the Housing and Social Wellbeing Committee on the 6th of September. And Perth and Kinross will develop and distribute the annual report to all tenants by the end of October 2024. So that is your whistle-stop tour of the Ark. Before we move on to the question and answers, we're going to play the video around the results from the rent setting priorities. And Scott, I apologise because I didn't give you any thumbs up to move slides, so you must have done a good job. Okay, thank you.
This year, we asked tenants to tell us what your spending priorities are for your housing services. We sent out a consultation to every tenant household asking for your views on housing spending. Tenants could also complete the consultation online if they preferred. This rent spending priorities consultation is part of our annual process of setting rent levels. In April, we sent out the rent spending priorities consultation to tenants. We then feedback the results to tenants at the Tenants Conference, where further discussions are held. The information you tell us is then fed into the decision-making process about what rent level options we can put forward for the next financial year. At the Tenants Conference held in the autumn, we will discuss the proposed rent level options for 2025-26, based on what tenants have told us. These rent options will then go out for consultation with tenants in November and December of 2024, with tenants able to vote for the option they prefer. Based on the results of this consultation, a recommendation for the rent level for 2025-26 will be put to the Council's Housing and Social Wellbeing Committee in January 2025. Your rent pays for all the services we provide, like repairs, improvements and neighbourhood services, so it's very important that all tenants have a significant say in how your rent money is spent and what services you want. Consultation with tenants also helps us understand what you think of our services and gives you an opportunity to tell us where you feel we can improve. So, what did you tell us in the rent spending priorities consultation we held earlier this year? We asked you, when making decisions about the rent you pay, what level of priority do you think should be given to each of the following? You said that we should give a higher priority to improving our response to repairs in your home. We then asked you, what priority you think should be given when spending on repairs? You told us your top priority was to improve how we respond to issues regarding damp and condensation, with 64.01% of tenants voting for that option. We also asked you what priority you think should be given when spending on improving the quality of your home. In response, you said that your highest priority was to make your home more energy efficient, with 54.33% of tenants voting for that option. We asked next, what priority you think should be given when spending on improving your neighbourhood. You told us that your priority was for us to improve how we respond to antisocial behaviour concerns and issues, with 51.29% of votes. Our last question was, what priority you think should be given when improving the support we provide to help in your home, and improving the options to get you more involved in decision-making. You said your priority is for us to improve how we offer support to tenants in their home, and also to keep a home, with 43.48% of tenants voting for that option. It's very important that we understand what matters to you when it comes to how we invest in your homes and in the housing services we deliver for you. So we would all like to thank you for taking your time to answer this survey.
Thanks very much. I know that presentation, some of you may wanted a bit more time on the slides that showed each of the percentages. So what we've done is Hayley has very kindly put it into a PowerPoint presentation. So again, the video will be available online, and you are able to pause it and watch it at your leisure as many times. We'd like as many views as possible, so don't be scared to keep hitting the button and keep watching it. We'll put the PowerPoint presentation online as well, but again, as I mentioned earlier, if you speak to Sunny or Emma, if you would like a paper copy sent out or a hard copy. So yeah, a massive thank you in terms of the number of responses. As Elaine said, a significant increase, and our new dedicated approach in terms of how we undertook this for your priorities will be mirrored in the approach we take when it comes to getting surveys back in terms of what rent level option you want to have or vote for moving forward. And as I say, what we want to do is we want to get an increase. It's significantly important, as Elaine said, because it impacts on absolutely every single tenant in Perth and Kinross. So we now have around 10 minutes for anyone who has any questions for the panel. That does include Stephen, who's online. So feel free to have questions for Stephen online, and we'll hopefully be able to get a response. If we aren't able to give you an immediate response, it's not that we don't want it, it's maybe that we need to go and check some information out, but we will get back to you, and we will pull together a list of the questions that are asked both in the room today and online, as I said, because Kev's going to take them, and we'll put that out as well. Okay, so does anyone have any questions around what they've just seen, the ARC performance?
Could you tell us where the regulator's report for the country comes out in August?
It will be found, we will publish it online, but it will also be in the Scottish Housing Regulator's website. Yeah, you can see the engagement in there. If you need any information around how to access that, then we can provide that.
Michelle, could you repeat the question that they asked just so they can hear it online? Yeah. No, that's fine.
Sorry, not good with technology. The question that was asked from the room here today was where are tenants able to see the Scottish Housing Regulator's annual report. So we've said that will be published online on the Scottish Housing Regulator's website, and we'll do links to that as well on our social media. Oh, question from up the back.
Yeah, I just wondered how you have been progressing with the backlog in the current year, because we've still got a repair that was reported before COVID to be carried out.
So the question in the room for the benefit of those online was asking for an update on progress on the backlog of repairs. The tenant that's here today still has some repairs outstanding, so I'll hand over to June McCall.
Good afternoon, thank you for your question. We actually have completed virtually all of our post-COVID backlog. While we were busy working away on that and new emergency and urgent repairs that were coming in, we, along with our external contractors, also accumulated a bit of a further backlog. We've now reduced that down by more than 50%, so we are getting there. Like all other construction-related businesses, local authorities and private contractors across the country, we have all had issues in relation to sourcing materials, delays in materials, recruiting qualified tradesmen, but thankfully we're now getting towards the end of that. We have managed to recruit into our trades team, I hope everybody can hear me, we've managed to recruit into our trades team really well over the last 6 months. We're virtually back to capacity, so we are a long way through, as I say, more than 50% through the backlog that we subsequently had. That, I would say, was all non-urgent work. And at the same time, we've been carrying on with our new work that's been coming in, particularly emergencies, urgent and routine. And we've got a lot of support from our external contractors to do that. So I'm very happy to take a note of your repair and follow up on that. If you want to see me at the end, we will do that. But hopefully we're doing really well. The team has been working very, very hard to catch up with the backlog that we've had. Thank you.
Yeah, just before we move on, just to echo June's questions, if anyone's got any specific questions around their individual tenancy, like a backlog of repairs or difficulties, then if you can approach one of the staff at the break, they'd be more than happy to take that from you. Gentlemen.
I stay in Lickley Court, and for the past over a year, the security doors have not been in operation. I've been up to the council about it, We have parking permits for the parking. We have residence parking area outside. The chain has been broken for about a year and a half. The padlock has been supposed to be coming from Australia, of all places. I've been on to them about that, and I still not have any satisfaction. Parking permits. I've got a notice here in my pocket saying that there is one permit per household. The guy from up the stairs from me, he's got 4 cars parked down there. Workers are bringing their vans home every night, parking them there over the holidays. There are other residents, I'm lucky, I got a blue badge, I can sit outside. Other residents do not have permits. They can't get the car parked, they've got to go outside. I've seen people getting tickets for it.
Okay, so what I'm discussing with June there, and I'm getting sort of from my colleagues who cover City, is we'd like to take that individual discussion forward with you at the break for the benefit of those online. The query was around specific issues with the block in which this gentleman lives in, with security doors and also parking. So that's something, if it is, that's unique to yourself, sir. If that's okay with you, then colleagues will meet up with you. Although I can see by the nods on the head from Carrie and Louise that they seem to be aware of that, but we'll be more than happy to sit down and have a separate chat with you. So, I think have you
It's around, I was moved from on safety, like 500 yards away, and at that I was moved into a damp mouldy property that is deteriorating my health, and not one medical point have I received. Right, I've got COPD diagnosed in 2021. In 2022 I was undiagnosed with COPD because I'd done the test, and then I had been diagnosed by a legal professor from my legal team as asthma and chronic bronchitis. I go to my first asthma clinic in 2.5 years of battling this damn mouldy property. I've had like Head, Charlie Shepherd, Roy Robertson, I've had every one of them in my property. I'm still lying in my living room in a damp, mouldy, like divan bed that was just replaced, a 4-seater couch that it was green hairy mould that I had to lie in and lie on for a year and a half.
Okay.
It's just not like...
Again, I'll hand over to June who may want to come in, but for the benefit of those online, this was a question, again, specifically it's fair to say in relation to the difficulties, Madam,
there's not a repair,
there's
not a repair outstanding.
Yeah, but it's the difficulties you're having with the condition inside the property, so I'll hand over to June.
I'm quite glad that somebody has mentioned condensation related mold
Condensation,
and
I've got
it's all
sensors,
related.
I've got sensors in.
That was my first question. Have you got the
ventilation
sensors?
system? I was moved with COPD, hormone safety, 500 yards away.
Okay.
From a
Again, maybe
property.
it would be a good idea if you and I had a chat and get your
yes.
address and everything. Although I may have already heard of it from what you've said.
Yes.
But just for the room, addressing condensation, related mould growth and any potential damp within our housing stock is a massive priority for us at the moment and going forward. So I'm hoping that you will agree with us and put that down as one of your rent setting priorities. What we've been doing so far is we've got massive raft of activities with our service area. Our teams across repairs have been away doing training, attending national forums. There's a really high political agenda across the country at the moment, and some of you might have heard of a new act that's being rolled out down south called Awab's Law. That unfortunately was a little boy that ended up dying from respiratory issues, and he was in a housing association property that had really bad damp and mould growth. So we certainly don't want anything like that happening among our housing stock. One of the key things, and you've got some literature on it on your table, is we've got a leaflet about how to prevent condensation that then can result in mould growth. We've also got the internet sensors, which this lady says she's already got them. And they measure temperature, humidity and CO2 within your home so that we can address anything that's affecting the air quality in your home and make sure that there isn't any damp or mould growth or anything growing in your home. And the sensors will give us data that alerts us in advance to the risk of that happening. We can then have discussions with yourself and take any necessary action, whether that's the way that you're heating, the type of heating you have, or indeed any repairs or anything that are outstanding that might be affecting that. But this is a huge priority for us. We've got a lot of work ongoing. We're hoping that through the rent setting process for next year we will get some additional funding to carry on with our Internet of Things sensors, but also to widen the teams so that we've got more resources available to address condensation, mould growth and dampness within our housing stock. So it's a really big issue, and please come and tell us if you have got any issues with that. Anyone that contacts our repair centre at the moment is automatically offered an inspection visit from one of our repairs inspectors, and they will automatically have sensors with them available to install in your property on that day. So do get in touch with us in particular about that. Thank you. I'll speak to you at the end.
We would need to check the legislation if that's applicable, because housing's a devolved power in Scotland. So if you can, apologies for people online because I can't remember the very specifics the gentleman took down, but if you could maybe write down your specific question for us, pass it to the team, give us your contact details, we'll reply to you individually, and we'll also put a reply on the frequently asked questions.
The Act hasn't been repealed, so it's still as valid today.
Well, we'll have a look into that, but no, thank you.
Just a quick one. The CO2 monitors that you mentioned just a minute ago, do you have remote access to each and every one that's in somebody's house?
Okay, so the question from the floor was, June alluded to the CO2 monitors that are installed in tenants' homes and asked if the service had direct access.
It's all stored in the cloud, as it were. There's a leaflet there that tells you about it. It's not personal data that's collected. We've got a data policy, a personal data policy, so we won't be collecting anything or sharing anything that's personal to you. We're just interested in the data in relation to the air quality within the property. And there is actually, when you sign up and get the sensors, if you have a smartphone, you can access the app as well, so you'll see the same information that we see in terms of alerts and advance notice of any risks.
Thank you.
Could you tell me what that app is? That app. The name of that app.
Yeah, the company that provide and supply our sensors are called IOPT. That's small I, capital OPT. And they have an app. I think it's probably on this sheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And you need to contact them to sign up to the app. Thank you.
Kevin's indicated to me, I think we've got a question online.
Yeah, got a couple of questions online. The first one's about cleanliness, picking up of litter, rubbish in general, leaves not getting picked up in communal gardens for years. Stephen's online, he pointed out that street litter is not covered by the HRA, but the tenants online wanted to raise that as an issue. And then a lot of litter's blown into gardens, which is then making an issue. So
Okay, so we work in partnership with colleagues in community green space and waste services around that. There are some areas of responsibility, obviously, that fall out with our remit as your landlord, but if it's within communal gardens that are owned by the council and have a tenant within them, then the locality teams will take action around that. So we've got a second one, and then maybe just time for one more from the floor. I can just see one more, so one more online.
Yeah, someone was asking how much does it cost tenants to put on this conference and all the required literature, and is it a statutory requirement that we do so?
Yeah, it is a statutory requirement that we offer as many opportunities for tenants to be involved in this process and to ensure that we consult and engage. We can get back to you with individual costs, but that would be something for those of you that are more involved in tenant engagement and participation. We have a working group of tenants that look at the spend on the housing revenue account, and that would be an area they would look at in terms of, you know, the cost and is it the most appropriate method still to continue, and hence the reason again we're asking you today to make suggestions about a range of other opportunities by way people can participate. Okay, and final question.
I just want to know what council, why the council takes so long and having the buildings empty when people put their own stuff in there. Look, we put them there's one at number 1 and number 5. They put their own stuff into the bins so that they did not empty. Now they're starting just to put it on the street. And for every 10 when I see them, go to the council, they take away. The other day, so the boxes, my carbon boxes, and they,
Okay.
they come from the chip shop and people, much people who live on the house that actually work there.
Okay, so the question from the floor is around why does it take the council so long to empty bins, issues with contaminated bins, and in relation to that. Obviously that doesn't sit within us as your landlord's area of responsibility, but we could get somebody to get back to you around that specific question.
Well, I read on Facebook this morning a report that there's a law coming out that if people, if people contaminated stuff in the bins, they're going to be fined. I read that this morning.
Are you talking about the contamination of bins? Again, landlords are not responsible for bin services, but we can feed that back and we can give you some more information from our waste services regarding that piece of legislation which is coming into place. Yeah, I appreciate that, and we try our hardest to work with waste services, but tenants should be paying to have bins decontaminated. It's not what they pay their rent for, and that sits with our waste services department, but I can appreciate your frustration with that area.
Okay, I think I'm conscious of time, and again, we would be more than happy to meet separately with you about specific issues. Okay, well, as we've said, we'll have a discussion with you. It's not our area of expertise, so it would be wrong for us to make commitments on behalf of our colleagues in waste services.
But it's still connected to the housing people.
It's not the emptying of bins is not connected directly to the housing team in relation to the responsibility for how and when that's uplifted. Yes, if there's a contaminated bin left at the end of a tenancy, then obviously we would meet the costs for that to be uplifted, but we can have a separate discussion around that, because I'm conscious we've got one more question then, and I know I've said I would really like to kind of try and keep us all on time, but we do appreciate the questions.
I've got two questions actually, sorry about that.
I only said one more.
Right, okay. Well, I don't know which one should really be prioritised.
I'm joking, you can have two.
Can the general public go online and see the auditor's certification for Perth and Kinross Council that the books have been signed off?
I might defer, so the question from the floor for those online, and Stephen, one for you. The gentleman's question is, can general members of the public access the auditor's reports? So we'll wait and see, test Stephen's typing skills to see. What's your second question?
The second one is the council building at the bottom of the High Street. The lights are on 24 hours a day, and they're on, internal lights are on throughout the night. Is there any way that we can get the electric bill that that's costing?
Okay, so that's probably going to be another one for Stephen. So the query is around, I'm presuming you mean 2 High Street?
Yes.
Yeah, the query around is the lighting, the internal lighting within the building itself would appear to be on 24/7, and the gentleman's asking, is there somewhere that they can access the costs to the council in terms of providing
to
that?
The public. It's to the public.
To the public, sorry, well, and then it's Pat, but and Kev's got his hand up, so.
Yeah, just a response from Stephen online saying that yes, they can, once they have been verified. They're currently sitting at a draft stage just now, and I can share the link where the accounts are published on the PKC website, and he's currently typing it in.
I thought we had his electric one.
Can I do that through a FOI?
Sorry,
Can I do a freedom of information request?
You wouldn't need to if it's a publicly available document. You don't need to do it. It's only stuff that is not available to the general public.
Once Stephen's typed, I'll speak to you and give you the...
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for some really varied questions and interesting questions. Quite a few we've not had before. So we'll be going away and, as we've said, for ones that are for other areas of the service, we'll be looking at them, but we will pull them all back together. So we're going to have a short comfort break now. I think 15 minutes. Has given me a thumbs up, so if you'd just like to help yourself to tea and coffee or stretch your legs, but make sure you all come back, okay? I'll be counting.